start diving onto this Jinx and make their life very hard in team fights.
And I don't know if Dress Code is going to be the person to stand up against that, because we have we've had issues with this player. The transition that he's had from not being in the LJL to getting into the LJL has been a difficult one. But V3 putting a lot of their hopes on him, and hopefully he can step up. We're into game now. AXIZ on the blue side, V3 on the red. This is such an important battle at the bottom of the table. Let's get it.
As we said, you know, one stray win could actually see you into playoffs at this point. V3, if they win today, they move up from winless to actually tied into that 7th, 8th spot, because the Hawks, as we were saying, have done so poorly themselves in this split. So both of these teams have more stakes in this bottom of the table matchup than you would potentially recognize coming into it. So now that this is arguably the highest stake match that they're going to be playing, because these are their local competition in the standings, what are these players going to do with that added level of potential tension?
It's a difficult question, and it's one that they haven't really been able to answer so far this split. Nothing too crazy going on the level 1 though, Nymera. Both junglers starting on opposite sides of the map. Unica pathing towards the bot side, wants to enable Dress Code, wants to enable Hotel as soon as possible.
So there was one thing which happened very, very early into the game as we kind of swept onto the map, was that LeBlanc actually went towards the top side, potentially looking to see if the AXIZ was stood in that front bush, because actually as a ranged top laner, you will often stand there and try and deny some... Oh my gosh, no. We were talking about early game, talking about presence, surviving through into everything. I mean, Swamp has made an absolute mess of this. Is going to have to burn Smite on the first camp.
Yeah, and it was already going to be at a disadvantage against the Lee Sin early game. This wasted time going to compound that a fair bit.
But this is big brain, because now he's not going to be in the place you expect him to be on the first. It's great. I mean, I truly cannot understand the depth of these huge brains these LJL players are bringing. I mean, obviously, it is not the best situation to be in as a hack room. Your first clear is where you want to be least. It's the place where you want to get out of it as quickly as possible. And you've kept yourself there for another 10 to 20 seconds, which in the early game does become a big threat.
Well, it's a nice, safe place to be. Unica probably not going to be invading you too much, so just chill in the jungle. Have a little bit of a fun time. Toltu pushing up in this top lane. I think this was probably to be expected, right? You were talking about AXIZ being one of these strong early game champions, so getting wave priority, not too much of a surprise.
So, no early attempts on towards that top lane. Of course, if you shut down a ranged top laner, normally you think, okay, well, they're going to start falling behind even more so at this point. I'm actually interested in seeing what build path they go towards. We'll check in on that as the game goes through, because when AXIZ was strong at the start of the season, before his passive got hit, before a couple of the items got hit, he was going towards stuff like the shield bow. Of course, he's really, really strong with stuff like the Kraken Slayer, because he pumps out so many multi-hits, and it means that Camille, if you don't hit everything and shut him down very quickly, well, much like you can shut down Nephelos by chaining your CC with this lane, it's going to be quite difficult to out-damage that AXIZ if you don't hit everything cleanly onto him.
TP channeled here from Washdar to get back towards the top side of the map. That Ruby Crystal in inventory. I swear, I never see this on Camille's, really paying a lot of respect to Toltu in the punishment that he can throw out. We did pan down to the bot lane just a little bit briefly there, and we actually saw Dress Code and Hetel getting the shove in on Sanctuary and Dicey, which I don't really feel like is the way that matchup is supposed to go.
So you can fight level 1, but I think with the Thresh, with the Thresh, often you're kind of sat there and you'll trade hook for hook, and it becomes a bit more of an even matchup. I'm more interested in seeing what happens post level 6 mark. I think that's the point where things can get very, very, very dangerous. Also, when flashes are blown, when we get stuff towards the Hex Flash coming in, potentially we can see a change in fortune stand up. But either way, if there's no fighting, Jinx has the AoE rockets, tends to favor that side of the matchup, which allows you to do whatever. But in this case, Wave was bouncing back, and hook trade for hook, just like we said.
That's a strong response there from Hetel. Still takes a fair trade of damage. Sanctuary and Dicey just going to re-push this one out. Drake spawning in 15 seconds, but neither of these junglers seem particularly interested in it just yet. Although saying that, we do see pings coming out from Unica.
Yes, so, but then you have to ask, is it important if AXIZ give up a first dragon? Well, actually, given how poorly the jungle players started the Swamp on the Hack Room, and how much emphasis we put towards the first 5 to 10 minutes of the game, going towards, you know, strong team fights coming into maybe the first Herald, second, third Dragon. I think AXIZ are doing okay on that front. I don't think V3 have come out of the gates particularly hot off the press, and I think that at this point now you're starting to look at this Hacker and you think, well, especially with that tier and inventory, which we saw also in the last game with the Muramana coming into it, AXIZ are more than happy to ride this out, use their strong early lanes to just coast into a comfortable mid-game power spike.
I was gonna call out that tier because
I have eagle eyes today.
You're just like reading my mind or something, and it's not really a build that we do see all that often. We have seen it a couple of times, but it is often a lot more of that chem tank, that slightly tankier style build. And personally, I feel like AXIZ have already got enough damage with these 3 sort of carry lanes. Maybe are they indexing a bit too much?
It is a very cost-efficient item for what it gives you, and it does give you some extra CDR as well, or rather ability haste. Like it is a good item on Hecarim, and when you get to go towards your tier 2 boots, which gives you the ability to fight while your trough is still kind of there with the tier. I don't think this is awful. Put it this way, I wouldn't play this in the VCS or the LPL, but because we're here in the land of the LJL. You can kind of get away with it, particularly against these teams which are not that explosive early game. You're going to ride out Hecarim's traditional kind of dip in power with the tier as well and just come through to an even bigger spike in the mid game.
It's a slower paced build that is going to reward you, like you were talking about, in that mid game once you've got that full Muramana transformation coming out there.
That seems to be the way I've seen that build as well. Of course, most of the time, as you're saying, kind of stick towards the Chem Tank, Dead Man's, Force of Nature, and Force moving towards the mid lane as that's a hook. It does nothing.
Just a hook.
I was kind of sad. I was like, do I want to get excited about this? It's probably not going to happen. I'll try. You know what? I'll try getting excited for once in this early game.
Pretend a little bit.
We'll pretend a little bit. So, speaking of, getting excited about things happening in the early game, there hasn't really been that much. And again, I just feel like this favors what AXIZ want to do. So,
yes,
of course, this is all hinged around the fact that AXIZ will know how to mid-game team fight. Or actually, in the last matchup which they had, of course, they had Sangshu on the Zeri, which allowed them to mid-game team fight and to kind of blow out those fights when Zeri got enough move speed to chase down the rest of those kills. But in this match, it is about hitting that initial engage, making sure you get onto the Jinx, and making sure the Jinx cannot fight. We're yet to see a single team fight in this game yet, so that's going to be the thing which I'm checking next. But AXIZ, they've done the first steps 1 and 2 of their plan just fine. Can they find anything after that point?
That feels so bad at Swamp there. Do you ever have it where like you'll gank a lane as a jungler and it's literally just been warded? Like you get a very efficient clear, but you know that if you were 10 seconds earlier, you could probably make that work. 8 minutes on the clock, so Swamp starting up the Herald. That's
a red buff diff right there, right from the start of the game. Imagine what could have happened if you hadn't reset that. And all of that. So we have level 6s hit. We have Akshan already pushing in that wave top and answering towards that Herald. So with V3 answering with their positioning on Washdai to go towards that Herald, they're going to miss half a wave under the tower of the Herald Star. But again, we're just talking about very micro things. We can probably take a step back at this point. We've already visited the stakes for this matchup. We put some names on the table and said, look, these are the players we want to see perform. We've talked about how dress code needs to survive. By hook or by crook, that will have to be the case. And on the other side, potentially Uji and Unica looking for Megaman, looking for the first blood.
Caught out, potentially still has the flash, will use it to get away. But Immobile Mage in the mid lane does have that phase rush. Oh, that was a super mega death rocket! Dress code, that was beautiful.
Oh, he is dressed to kill in this game. 1-0 gets the rocket snipe, and that's a welcome reprieve from the very low energy we've had in this game so far, and the Jinx, that target which AXIZ have painted onto them so heavily, so brightly in this game, has gotten a lot more gold to their name with that first blood, and that's starting to look a little bit dangerous, because if Jinx does get to a point of power and you don't manage to shut them down, as we said, they are going to be the core of this team comp.
And again, for Megaman as well on this rise now, doesn't have the flash, still ended up dying, so he's going to be even more vulnerable.
And this is a momentary lapse in vision control from V3. So from AXIZ rather, because you see top side of the river, they managed to you managed to get some vision into that pixel brush, but they just didn't see that water over the wall. Megaman looking to contest through that channel. I'm not sure I'm not exactly sure what he was planning to do. Maybe he was just planning to be in position for a potential Herald start from the other side, but no, V3's mid jungle find the pick off, and the Lee Sin LeBlanc, that is one of our strongest mid jungle duos in the game, finds themselves something for it with a little help from the bot lane friends.
And you know what? Unica and UJ, probably a couple of the more experienced members on this V3 roster. It's always good to see them pairing up and getting stuff done. Although it's not all sunshine and rainbows for V3, because in the top lane, Tol2 has expanded that CS lead pretty significantly.
They have it. Yes, there is. And actually, there's a lane swap coming out here too. So, watch out. Oh, misses the hook. Ooh.
Oh, dear. Oh, that's a beautiful dodge on the unstoppable onslaught. Onslaught of Shadows, I should say. That was pretty nice.
Okay, so you know how you were talking about, oh man, you were too good at spotting that tier earlier. I completely inted that one though, because I was like, wow, he's used the hook shot already. And it's like, no, he actually,
no, he hasn't.
No, he actually just hasn't. But Watchdai has been denied a little bit more. Tol2 using the ignite there, traded for a cleanse.
Oh, still got a fair bit of damage on this Aphelios and a fair bit of health as well. So able to defend this, and now Watchidai is being hooked onto. Yujo diving into the backline. The Robo is coming through as well. No one has gone down just yet. And no one will fall. V3 successfully defend that inner tower.
So both teams commit towards a cross map. They're trying to make use of, because I mean, when you cross map with someone like an Aphelios, you need to be so worried about how quickly he kills towers. So AXIZ continue the push on top side. Both sides, though, on the quote-unquote weak side of that play, try to fight things off. Going to go back to both sides, actually, because, again, we see Tol2 taking a large chunk out of both of these. What happens after this?
Wait, did he get a kill here?
He flashes in, but Unica's still there for the safeguard and the quick kick away. That is absolutely instrumental, actually. So both teams going for aggressive plays on the weak side of the map, and somehow nothing comes of it on either side.
Because, of course, it doesn't.
Because of course it doesn't. We're not actually allowed to do things here in the LJL. You need to get like paperwork signed in triplicate, do it 2 weeks in advance, this whole process. So we're still waiting for that. 12 minutes into the game, we've only had that first kill. And we should probably check in with what's happening with the whole map. So we have lost one tower. There are a couple of plates been gone on other towers outside of that, though. But as far as the calling card for AXIZ, you need to survive the early game, and your action can help you do that. I feel like that has worked out well for them, even with that first blood going down. I know we've revisited a lot. It's just the one thing I can think of and keep returning to, because it's just what's written on. It's so largely written on both of these teams' descriptions. In terms like, we're diving onto your Jinx, and the other one is like, Jinx needs to survive. That's what we got to track.
That kill was the thing that's happened this game so far.
Yes.
As AXIZ do another thing, taking down that Mountain Drake. Both teams going to be at one apiece.
It's much better than teams not doing things.
I'm a big fan of League of Legends when people are playing it.
Sometimes we struggle to do that in the LJL. Of course, we had the infamous Sengoku Burning Core. We had apparently the even more disastrous, was it Hawks CGA, that one?
I feel like it, or something like that. Basically, every game that me and RMC have cast together has been interesting. Actually, just RMC. I feel like he's got really lucky with some of these games.
At this point, it's like like every game becomes like a random mediocre cast because of the level of gameplay. Because I mean, as much as that, you look at that gameplay and it's like no cast can bring that up. It's like try as you might. It's like I don't know whether he's signed like a pact or like I don't know like was it Polyphemus or was it Sisyphus in the Boulder? Well, random Indicaster has become that in the LJL. We had to bring him down. A peg is like, you're too entertaining. Sisyphus. We need to give you the worst games in the history of the league.
That's the guy from Hades, right? Sisyphus?
It is. Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
Turns out it's based on actual mythology.
No way.
Crazy.
No way. That's a damn good game, actually. I need to play that again. Yeah.
It's I'm a big roguelike fan in general. I love myself some of those. Wait, what the heck? What did I just get pinged for? I just had a noise in the background. I'm like, have I just been disconnected from something? Because I think I know it's a Google Calendar. I'm like, it's not a boop I'm used to hearing. So I'm like, what's breaking on my PC? And what do I need to go fix?
Know what? Don't even get me started. Like boops that I'm not used to are terrifying.
Absolutely terrifying. But this top lane inner turret used to a couple of boops in this game, and Yu-Gi-Oh! Getting a very free ultimate there out of Swamp. Not sure about that one, buddy.
Yeah. Possibly hasn't ganked mid lane too much, so doesn't forgotten what LeBlanc can do. Yeah, she can just like dash away on a 8-second cooldown. That's a thing that's possible.
Yeah, that's the one.
It's an ult invested and not much gain for it. Maybe that lets V3 do something else on the map.
But there are only so many times I can say, ooh,
yeah,
this is going to come down to a diving team fight at some point. We're just waiting for that. We haven't seen setup for the objectives. It's a dragon apiece. The Herald's already gone down. We've got a second one spawning at some point. I really hesitate to commit to anything about what these teams are doing on the map. We do have both bot lanes coming into that, coming into the mid lane now. Once some of these side lanes have started to become longer lanes because those first turrets have been taken down. But honestly, it just seems like all systems go for both teams. The Jinx has done some stuff. The Hecarim survived. What else do you want us to talk about? This is V3 AXIZ, baby.
We're in this horrible position where, like you're saying, both teams have got what they want, and what they want is not fighting right now. We did see the chem tank actually picked up for Swamp though, so still going to be fairly tanky on this Hecarim. Maybe that tier is going into a Fimbulwinter, into that Winter's Approach instead of the Muramana. I don't know if that's an option.
I was wondering whether that'd be the case, because of course you have two immobilizers in your kit, but you're only going to get the shield for the first part. I do think that the burst is, I mean, the thing is, if you hit that, I mean, long lane action, by the way, really, really dangerous, but we'll have to keep our eyes on that one as it goes forward. But yeah, I think that when your MO is, let's dive and kill the Jinx, you don't really want to be, well, I mean, I think that the Muramana helps you with that goal, right? So I think that I can understand that. Spider-Man cancelled.
Interrupting the hook there as Sancho does get played back. Dicey is very, very low, but here comes Swamp diving onto that Jinx like we talked about, but Unica kicks him away. It's actually a kill picked up for AXIZ here as Dress Code taken down by the final hit from that Graviton. While she die, TPing into the fight as Dicey lands another hook, grabbing them under the tower as here comes Told to as well. It's an all-out brawl for no reason in the mid lane, and it's going in AXIZ's favor. Washidai tries to hook shot away, but will not make it out. Unica wants to get that blue buff and will just escape.
Why does this fight happen? Why? What is the purpose of this? I mean, I sit there and like, ooh, wow, both of these bot lanes have moved through into mid, they're wave clearing, and then it's one failed hook, it's cancelled. I mean, you do have that interaction where, you know, the most recent displacement takes precedence, and Dicey mistimes his own hook trying to get out of this, and you can see it's a good cancel, it's a good punish from the side of V3's bot lane, but you just don't have the room to play with this. You know you're being shoved to that top side. You didn't have adequate vision onto what Swamp was doing on the Hecarim. And then after this point, it is a series of, oh, I'd best go clean that up. That's the only way I can describe this fight. It's like, oh, I guess I'll go flash in as the FLS. Oh, but hang on, there's a Camille now. Oh, I should probably go finish off that kill. It is just the entirety of this, but one team has a much better cleanup comp than the other because of the action. But seriously, that's a real bro blue buff save at the end of that. It's upset because the action ult hits pretty much everything you can think of, and the blue buff tanks it up for him.
That never actually ended up being a 5v5 either. That was literally just like tag team wrestling. Like people go, yeah, my turn. Yeah, I'm jumping in. Yeah, let's go. Woo, woo, woo.
I didn't realize that the League new fighting game with the tag system had already been released. We're getting a exclusive first look at it here over in the LJL. And let's go praise some of the people in that fight though, because I think that seriously Told to on the action did a good job of navigating his way to that fight, clearing up those last couple of kills. Only gets the one. Would have been lovely to get that second kill and get some of that gold away from Unica. I'm actually not sure if it would have been a shutdown because of the level of parity between these teams anyway. But we are left with Yu-Gi-Oh, buddy.
Don't want to be jumping into Megabin just yet. We've not quite reached that late game rise fantasy, but still at level 13, he's going to be pumping out a hell of a lot of damage. Sancho defending the mid lane solo, but will be able to stand tall as Dicey's here to support.
So, while the mid lane is being pushed in by the Jinx Thresh, I think that they've given themselves something to play around with that, and with the Herald that is put more into their favor. The side lanes are very much being controlled by AXIZ. The rise of the Realm Warp, the action being able to push up and 1v1 anyone on the map right now, is giving a degree of freedom to AXIZ to collapse onto that mid laners. I'm not sure if Yujo was just setting up his ult to have a mimic there, but I'm not sure if that was just a place plan. We'll ignore that one.
Big fan of it. Big fan of it.
I'm a big fan of this.
Trying to make it happen. Yeah. Trying to make it happen. But we have had things happen. 4-on-4 now. Just about to crest that sort of 20-minute mark. So Baron comes up available. Both these AD carries have actually got to relatively decent points. 2 items on Dress Code and 2 items on Sanchu. Opting for that collector on the Aphelios is nice.
Okay, but we can talk about that.
As much.
We can, okay. But I'm actually much more interested. Oh, wait, okay, so first we might need to be worried about what's happening in bot lane.
Yeah.
As Toltu is going to get 1v2. That's an
Hextech ultimation from Washidai. Unica here as well, and I don't think the Akshan is diving away out of this one, buddy.
Okay, so I actually just lost all audio there for like a straight second, so I have no idea what was happening with that. I'm like, sweet, that's a kill. I was like, sweet, wow, we're going to get ourselves a 2v1 in the bot lane, and Toltu does go down. At least V3 kind of understand that they can also use their mobility to close onto these players. We already talked about the top side of the map being able to close down the action, and this is the first time that we've really seen come into this game at this point. But, you know, you're mentioning Sanchu picking up the collector. Of course, we know that on picking up the first kill, very, very important. It's going to be good onto the Jinx. If you're hitting anyone else, probably pretty bad, but the Jinx is the prime target with that. I'm actually, though, more interested about something which I've been sitting and thinking about this for a while, about a minute, which is a long time in my world. But we see the fire cannon picked up for Dresco, but I'm actually wondering if I've come onto a bit of a discovery here, because what happens, does this imply the existence of a water cannon, a wind cannon, and an earth cannon? And can we have the avatar of all cannons? Discuss, 15 marks.
I've not seen Avatar.
Okay, well, that has completely stumped me in everything I want to do here.
We've had this before, Nightmare. I've told you, I have never experienced any part of popular culture at all. My brain is just filled with League of Legends, and that's it. I'm sorry, bro. Well,
yeah. Well, everything changed when the fire cannon attacked. But what happens with the fire cannon here? There we go. We've got one reference. Congratulations. But what happens with the fire cannon on your AD carries? That it allows you to fight for mid lane priority, very, very importantly. And I think what that has done, because let's tie this back to a bigger point that we've made already in terms of how are we going to approach these fights? What's going to happen with these big fights which AXIZ are trying to dive onto the Jinx with? Well, actually, if you don't have lane push to secure the setup for that, it becomes a lot more difficult. Now, we know that the side lanes, V3 have started to make some inroads towards, particularly with Unica. So sat 2-0-3 on the Lee Sin, trying to shut down some of those side lanes. But having the fire cannon to shore up your mid lane wave as well, I think that's actually quite a heads-up decision from V3, and I like that itemization choice and how it's going to affect one of the big win conditions in this game for the other team.
Well, it does mean that Hetel and Jesscode are actually getting first move towards this Drake, which is spawning in 30 seconds. A couple members of AXIZ potentially shadowing Toltu down here on the bot side. Obviously, if our blue side team are able to pick this one up, put them to soul point, and Hex XL is not something that I'm going to complain about.
And particularly when you got the Akshan as well. If you ever go into an extended confrontation against Akshan with the extra slows and the extra damage, that's a pretty one-way trip to the danger zone. And V3, they have set up on this side of the map. Again, we said that they've fought around their side lanes. They've got themselves mid lane priority. They have themselves that set up on the objective now. What's that going to net them?
I think it's going to net them the objective, Nightmare, as AXIZ don't seem particularly keen on contesting this, instead going for mid lane priority. Dicey fishing for a hook, but can't find it. So trading mid lane tower for second Drake. I don't think AXIZ are going to be too upset about this one, but obviously soul point would have been good.
Dress Code is caught out in a bit of a strange position, and that's a rocket for, cool. We love ourselves some... That's the Hanabi right there. That's the summer festivals. Although it's spring, we're just doing it out of time this year apparently.
Yeah, go for it.
But Dress Code's like, sweet. I mean, you know, I know that we've had a couple of AD carries who've not been up there in terms of the DPM. Most of our AD carries have been doing fantastic, over 500 DPM.
Yeah.
Dress Code just making sure that he's stat padding with his ult, making sure that he's still in the equation.
Well, and if he's got high DPM, that means he's really good.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I mean that's the only thing. I mean, so what I'm subbed in on like 2 minutes notice to come cast the game, and it's like best look up some stats. I'm like, this guy's got low DP. In fairness, that's actually quite relevant in my position. Luckily, you know, I've actually watched some of this guy's games before. Didn't know if you knew that I actually watched this region. Crazy, but
Sanchez.
I mean, There you go. He's just he's stat padding his kill involvement there.
No, so I do actually, I like that from Sanctuary. We don't often see this from Aphelios's, and I think that's one of the big problems that we see with the Aphelios into Jinx matchup, is the Aphelios players don't tend to play it as aggressive if you need to. They don't get up in the face of the Jinx. They don't make her day difficult. We see Utabon do it, and I'm glad that we're seeing Sanctuary do it as well.
And particularly when you have something like a Gravitum changes this matchup a lot too, because you have the ability to tag on to someone running into your lane. But Gale Force is so important for this champion. Even trading Gale Force for Gale Force versus Jinx can be quite important in these fights. We'll see if there's any larger trade happening around here, but of course not. We're not allowed big fights in this game. Apparently, we've had precisely one of them, and everything else has been.
It was a bagger. It was
a good one. It was really good. In fairness, it looked like my solo queue, and not in the most positive connotations for that one. But we're left again. I mean, I do think that the reason we've got a lower action game is because both these teams are aware of what happens when you commit to a fight. It is, if AXIZ don't find the target again, it's very dangerous to them. And V3 have started to split the map and try to contest these strong side lanes to try and get their own way into things. And Washed Out once again trying to commit on the sideline.
Hey, he's looking for it. Committing the Hextech Ultimatum, the Ignite as well. This is a full-on kill attempt, and I think he's gonna get it. And the flash as well. Beautiful solo kill.
Okay, so Washidai, someone that I know that you kind of point towards, that actually Washidai's had a couple of good games so far. He's been one of the more stable members. Takes down his opposing lane opponent for that phase of play, whereas the other top player in Hall 2 was pushing out that side lane. And I do think that that was good lane assignment. You understand that you can't fight the action, but maybe there's an angle to 1v1 the Rise on the other side of the map. What's that actually going to lead to, though? What it mainly leads to is, again, V3 just understanding that they have control over the map, and they're not going to be the ones that are going to be potentially punished by the heavy dive of a Realm Warp and a Hecarim charging at you.
Do you know what? There's a little bit of a catharsis there, seeing this tank Rise build, which has been so toxic told to.
That's the person you can't fight there, buddy.
On Washidai will go forward with the charge there, pops the ultimate as well, and this is just going to be a solo kill.
There he goes, gets his comeuppance, and yes, you can fight one of those solo ladders, probably not the other one. It is, maybe not that one. It has the 2 item spike. It is actually going to be the more brawly defensive stats of the triple item combo that we see so much from Vayne in the last season, of the Rage Blade coming in third on top of the Wits, and of course the Lifesteal Mythic of the Shield Bar. But what this has opened up now, with Washidai being down for another 20 seconds, is a potential Baron start for AXIZ. Now you start asking, what are the engage options for 3-3? You don't have a big engage, but that's a pretty good chunk.
It's a good start to the fight. Dress code already with a reset, already with a little bit more attack speed, move speed, and damage. But the fight is not going in favor of V3. As here comes the Realm Warp diving on forward. Patel now forced to run away. That looked good at the start for V3, but when you're playing in an outnumbered fight, it doesn't go your way. And with Washidai teeping into the bot lane,
they've just given up on the Baron.
They've just given up on the Baron.
And I think this is very, very intelligent play for AXIZ. Yes, we could have asked more of them to try and dive maybe onto the mid lane, collapse on their lanes a little harder. But in this moment, they realize, okay, we've shut down the side lane threat, and Camille is the big disruptor in these team fights. If we start the Baron and they come into us, the cards are in our hands. I mean, Yu-Gi-Oh, credit to him, actually does a really good amount of damage, and that gives you a very early reset onto Jinx. Normally, you think, okay, reset on Jinx, this is danger at this point. But with the Hecarim cleaning up the rest of that fight, you don't have a front line to play around. You don't have the ability to stand and fight. And with the Realm Warp to follow up after, rarely do we see that in these kind of moments. AXIZ, they conducted that fight much better than I would have given them hope for earlier into it. I think that's very heads-up play.
But on the back half of it, V3 have actually managed to get a decent ingress towards this Drake. Yu-Gi-Oh! Waiting on the side, flanking, looking for a pick, trying to catch out one of these members. Megamin is very tanky, though. Probably not going to be him. It really needs to be either Sanctuary or told to.
It does, and again, we said that V3, one of the things that they're doing well before that last fight was controlling the game, getting priority, and making sure they had the objective set up. Now, AXIZ, they found success when they were being engaged into last time. Might not have the same angle here, but the solo lanes have found a flank.
Looking for Megamin as Swamp is actually going to pull back Washidai into the rest of his team. Has gone into the golden Zonya's pop there. We'll still go forward and get the Ignite down onto Swamp, but he's still going to get taken down in the end. That's the flank from Asham, but he gets caught out by the hook for the Thresh, and here comes Yujo. He's going all over the place. Unica is going to be the last man standing for V3.
Okay.
The onslaught of shadows from Swamp. somehow works, somehow secures the kill. That's a Drake for AXIZ, and they're going to be pushing down the mid as well.
And I can respect the approach from V3. Use your solo laners, try and find an angle onto the backline. Find the miracle flank. They're spotted out, they're collapsed on. AXIZ will take themselves to 3 and 8 and give themselves some serious good position in the race for the last playoff spot.
Yeah, those death timers are just a little bit too long at this stage in the game. V3, they had some good moments, they had some strong individual performances, but at the end of the day, it's AXIZ grabbing the win.
It's in only just over 30 minutes as well.